Mary Ann, are you ready?
We're good?
Thank you. Call this meeting to order. To make a motion to appoint Mary Ann Ross as interim fiscal officer.
Second. Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Please call roll.
Mr. Quigley?
Here.
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms.
Here.
Knapp?
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin with agenda changes. Trustee Toronto, do you have any changes?
Under park report, we're combining B and H.
Anything else?
D should be $1,760.48 instead of $2,000. And that's it.
Trustee Knapp.
Nope.
We will remove item 3C, the purchase order for Al Schrader. And the other item, 7B, records requests. Any other questions? Any other changes? No? Therefore, the minutes are approved as modified.
The minutes are the agenda.
The agenda, I'm sorry, the agenda is approved as modified. We'll move on to public comments regarding items otherwise not on the agenda. If anybody here would like to come forward, state your name and address on items that are not currently on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to zoning report. As always, we do have a upcoming hearings, a report located over there. If you're interested to find out what meetings are coming up in the next couple of weeks, please feel free to go look over there. Next item, B. Unfortunately, we are going to, one of the Economic Development Advisory Board members, Babson, has had some health issues, and he's going to unfortunately resign from that post. Are there any questions?
No.
I'd like to make a motion to regretfully accept the resignation of Harold Babson from the Orange Township Economic Development Advisory Board effective June 21st, 2012.
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
That is all I have for zoning. We will turn it over to the maintenance. Trustee Toronto.
The first item is the blanket purchase order for $5,000 for special duty officers. This will cover all of the 4th of July events and some additional. It was the fiscal officer's suggestion that we write it for this amount. It'll cover us for the rest of the year. It's a blanket because each individual officer, when they do special duty, gets paid individually. So.
Any questions? I make the motion to authorize the issuance of a blanket certificate to account 1000-319-88889, other professional services for special duty deputies in the amount of $5,000. Second.
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Next item is a purchase order for sweeps a lot. This is following up on the street sweeping conversation that we had. Initially, contract sweepers was lower for once a year. I've negotiated with Sweeps a Lot, who is lower for twice a year, to do it for a total of $5,300 per sweep, which is actually less than their May number. They've agreed, and you'll see in the document, one sweep for 2012, two sweeps for 2013 at $5,300. And the purchase order then is for $5,300. We'll do it once this year. I'll coordinate with my liaison when that will be done and how we'll notify the neighborhoods.
Does anybody have any questions on that? I think it would be great if you could get them out really soon, so it's after that storm. It really benefit us.
I bet they're pretty busy with lots of other communities also.
When the maintenance guys, just speaking of the storm and while we're still on maintenance, they were out all day today. Well, actually, they worked until 10 o'clock on Friday. We inspected as many roads as we could, and that we suspected trees would be. There may have been some neighborhood streets individually that we missed, but the heavy tree neighborhoods were inspected with every road. There were several trees taken down or pushed off the road. We had the loader out, we picked them up, moved them off. And then today, they've just been driving around with the shredder, and anything still in the right-of-way that we moved or cut on Friday is being shredded. They'll go around again tomorrow as well.
I make the motion to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to sweep a lot in the amount of $5,300 for street sweep curved roads in Township.
Second?
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes. Before, oh, go ahead.
It's going to start on the park report.
Yeah, I just want to go ahead and say before we started that, if you did, I just want to mention that the music in the park was great. I went up there with my family. I know because of the storm this weekend and the heat, might not have been as big of a turnout, but I think it was a good gathering. And I really want to thank the Parks Board, Glenn Fisher, Michael Kilber, Tony Benchik, David Chambers, and Randy Macciola, as well as Trustee Toronto for spearheading that and making that happen, and to the Parks Department as well for supporting that. I know that Doug was out there and made sure that they had power and everything went well. So.
Right, well, and Doug and several of the park crew were in. Doug was in Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. They had the park cleaned and cleaned up of all the debris from the storm. And I want to commend CPM. It's a miracle that no one was injured at the pool. The pool manager, Pete Bluval, had the forethought to not only bring people in under the underpass at the entrance, which is what they usually do during a storm. He actually tucked them into the restrooms and the offices. And they had furniture actually fly out through that inner door. And somebody could have seriously been injured if he did not have the forethought to do that. So I think they did an excellent job. Park staff did an excellent job cleaning up and identifying trees that were down, and they cleaned up the parking lot over here at Township Hall. You couldn't see the pavement Friday night,
No, I drove
Saturday
by,
morning.
Right.
So
It was pretty bad. So, well, again, to say thank you to the maintenance department as well for everybody that helped out with that, but also with music in the park. It turned out very well.
thank you.
And I got a couple emails also complimenting the music in the park. They hope that they come back again. They were really
Okay.
excellent.
How many people do you guys think came? Just ballpark?
There was a range, I believe Randy counted, she said there was probably 65, 70 around there. There's people that were walking up throughout the whole time, so getting a full count, I'm not sure if that was the most accurate, because as the music played on, we saw people walking over from the pool, and when she made that count to me, when she mentioned it to me, it was like probably in the second song, so there's probably more people that walked up after the fact.
Well, a lot of people were, it was so hot and a lot of people didn't have power, so
Right.
I bet it would have been double that.
I agree.
If that had been the case. It was just kind of bad timing, but.
Great. Moving on to the first item. This is consideration and possible action upon preliminary legislation regarding the DEL US 23 Graphics Way project, PID number 90821. This is our agreement from the township for ODOT for us to work together on the bridge and the federal funding.
Does anybody have any questions?
This is the bridge over,
The pedestrian
over
way.
23. Nope.
The following is a resolution enacted by the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township in Delaware County, Ohio, hereinafter referred to as a local public agency, LPA, in the matter of the stated described project. I move the adoption of the following resolution. Section 1, project description. Whereas the LPA has identified the need for the described project within its park trail system and its transportation network and has been awarded grant funding for such improvement. And whereas RC 505 .261 authorizes the LPA to enter into contracts with state agencies and instrumentalities to carry out the purposes of such grants. And whereas the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, has likewise identified the need for the described project, and whereas the project proposes to construct a multi-use trail between Orange Road and Home Road, including a new bridge over US 23. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, hereinafter referred to as a local public agency, LPA, as follows. Section 2, consent statement. Acting in the public interest, the LPA gives consent to the Director of Transportation to complete the above described project. Section 3, corporation statement. The LPA shall cooperate with the Director of Transportation in the above described project as follows. The LPA hereby agrees to cooperate with the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio in the planning, design, and construction of the identified highway improvement project, and grants consent to the Ohio Department of Transportation for its development and construction of the project in accordance with plans, specifications, and estimates as approved by the Director. The LPA agrees to assume and bear 100% of the cost of preliminary engineering. The LPA agrees to assume and bear 100% of the cost of the right-of-way and construction, less the amount of federal funds set aside by the Director of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration. The LPA agrees to assume and bear 100% of the total cost of those features requested by the LPA which are not necessary for the improvements as determined by the State of Ohio and the Federal Highway Administration. Section 4, utilities and right-of-way statement. ODOT agrees that all right-of-way required for the described project will be acquired and are made available in accordance with the current state and federal regulations. ODOT also understands the right-of-way costs include eligible utility costs. ODOT agrees that all utility accommodations, relocation, and reimbursement will comply with the current provisions of 23 CFR 645 and the ODOT Utilities Manual. Section 5, maintenance. Upon completion of the project, unless otherwise agreed, the LPA shall, number 1, provide adequate maintenance for the project in accordance with all applicable state and federal law, including but not limited to Title 23 U.S.C. Section 116. 2, provide ample financial resources as necessary for the maintenance of the project. 3, maintain the right-of-way, keeping it free of obstructions. And 4, hold said right-of-way inviolate of for public highway purposes. Be it further resolved that Trustee Taranto of the Board shall execute on behalf of the Board an acceptance of the foregoing resolution as a basis for proceeding with the project herein described.
Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Yes.
Next item on the agenda is to authorize execution of a task order and agreement. This goes with the purchase order at the bottom. This is with Port and Nemeth Engineering, Task 4, Step 1. This is to survey all the park properties and mark any points that would be adjacent to anything other than right-of-way, private property. This would allow us to identify what's park property and what's private property.
Any questions? No. Mr. Quigley?
Good.
I make the motion to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Port and Nemeth Engineering Incorporated consultant in the amount of $14,614.95 for on-call consulting services, surveyor engineer in regard to task number 4 issued under the agreement between the board and consultant dated the 20th day of June 2011, and to authorize Trustee Taranto to execute the related task order and agreement for such services, which shall be in the form presented to the board and dated June 26th of 2012.
Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Yes.
And we just need to make a supplemental appropriations for park events from the money received by Pepsi into an account.
Supplemental will move at $2,000, and then the blanket is for $1,760.48. The difference is a then and now that we've already done for the music in the park signs, the yard signs that were put up for this last week's event.
I make the motion to authorize a supplemental appropriation from account 2901-760-730-0000 to account 2901-610-420-2908 in the amount of $2,000 for park events.
Second.
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
I make the motion to authorize the issuance of a blanket certificate to account 2901-610-420-2908 operating supplies for park events in the amount of $1,760.48.
Second.
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
And then we have two swim lesson refunds.
Yes.
I make the motion to authorize a refund of Mindy Stobart in the amount of $35 for swim lessons due to not wanting to participate.
Second?
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
I make the motion to authorize a refund of Bethany Adamants in the amount of $55 for swim lessons due to being out of town.
Second.
Mrs. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
And if I can just add for the record, both of the swim lessons refund requests were prior to the lessons starting, which has always been kind of our criteria for the refund.
Now, what did you mean when you said not wanting to participate? You mean the child wouldn't get in the water? Is that what?
It could be that they could have decided beforehand. I don't necessarily need the details as long as they've requested the refund and the spot can be filled.
Okay, great, thanks.
We have an obsolete item. Any questions?
Which, whose computer was that? Whose monitor?
That was, I think, it was the one that was in Mr. Barbowski's office.
Okay, thanks.
I make the motion to designate the following township property as obsolete, no longer fit for public purpose, and of no value. The township therefore may discard, salvage, or donate such property or equipment to a political subdivision. Specifically, the item is the following: one Gateway 17-inch computer monitor screen, model number FPD 1730, serial number QS73308000636.
Second?
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6, public safety report. I just want to state one thing, and maybe it's also for the newspaper. I've had a couple deputies approach me and mention that they've had a increase in thefts in garages in certain areas. And I just would like to remind everybody that if they could, before they go to bed, to close their garage doors and make sure that their neighbors are closed as well to help out. I'll turn it over to Trustee Knapp.
Okay, tonight we have 3 purchase orders. And I also wanted to note before we got started that the Code Red system that I've discussed before at meetings, I think it worked really well with the recent storms. A lot of my neighbors and people I knew got their notifications about the storms in good time. And I also wanted to mention that we had a large fire on Friday night, right, Assistant Chief, that involved a garage, and I think several vehicles were in the garage, and it was quite a fire.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and talk about that now since you brought it
Yeah,
up.
No, go ahead, I'll let you finish first. But I just want to say to that point, I did stop and speak with homeowners, and they were very appreciative of how the fire department reacted and how they treated them, and also very appreciative of the neighbors, and they really want to reach out and thank all the neighbors for their help and care for that. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, one of the calls for service during the storm that we had Friday night was the structure fire. As Trustee Knapp alluded to, it was a large storage building behind a residence, detached. Inside were several vehicles, some mowers, and some flammable fluids. The first arriving engine company found pretty much full involvement of the structure. It is believed that it is a lightning strike. It was a witnessed lightning strike. Our investigator was there and investigated it, and per the witness statements, it deemed it a lightning strike. So unfortunately, it was deemed a loss upon the first arriving engine company. Their primary goal was to get water back there, which they accomplished. Get water not only on the fire, but get water on that residence to protect it. Our primary goal is to confine, which is what they did. They confined it to the structure itself and then began extinguishing it. So the crews did an excellent job from that standpoint that night with that structure fire.
How long did it take to resolve that?
I don't have the times with me to be able to tell you. I know we were notified at approximately 5:30, between 5:30 and 5:38. Times from the dispatch center, as we talked to them today, were kind of all jumbling together. As you can imagine, there were several calls for service, not only within Orange Township, but also countywide. They were very busy. So, in fact, our crews were responding to the structure fire from a fire alarm from another location. So they had just finished up investigating that, making sure that there was no hazard there, responded in. I know our crews were there for several hours, finishing up that instance.
Were either of you two able to make it to the scene?
Neither Chief or I were available. We were not able to make it to that. I will tell you that both Chief and I were on vacation Friday. I was on vacation due to a death in my wife's family. Her uncle passed away, so I was at the funeral Friday. And then from there, Friday evening, both Chief and I were at retirement functions of other fire chiefs from other areas. In fact, we were presenters at those functions.
But the guys were able to handle it?
Yeah, and I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because to kind of expand upon that a little bit, we train our personnel to be able to handle those incidences when Chief and I are unavailable. That doesn't happen a whole lot, but it does, and it can happen for both Chief and I to be unavailable. So we provide that training to not only our lieutenants, but our firefighters to be able to handle those calls without us being present. And the other thing too that you have to remember is a fire such as this, it's automatic response. So we do have chief officers that do respond from other departments that are coming in to have a chief officer there. Does that always happen? No, but it does happen. And just to add to that, since it was brought up, I do want to say that both Chief and I's vacations were pre-scheduled. We had no idea that the storm was going to come up, and we were both out of town and unavailable.
No, if we knew, I would have had a generator.
And I think a lot of people would have as well.
I heard they did a really good job handling it on their own, right?
They did a very good job. Lieutenant Myers was the officer in charge, did an excellent job. I'm sure lots of questions could be raised, but Chief and I were at those events already when this all began, and if we were to leave, we would have had to go home, get our response vehicles, because I know contrary to a lot of popular belief out there, we don't take our vehicles everywhere off duty. So to take our families home, get our department vehicles, get up here, it would have been over with
Well, everything
by
worked
that
out
time.
great, so.
Absolutely. We didn't even know what was going on until we started receiving some text messages from, I know fiscal officer Joel Spitzer had sent a picture of it. That's how we first were made aware of it. Our communications center was so bogged down that we didn't even get the text from them until well into the incident. So by the time we would have found out, we wouldn't have been able to get there.
Yeah, it was kind of a mess Friday everywhere.
Yeah. You brought that up, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, there are going to be times when Chief and I are unavailable. Family functions, vacations, conferences,
Yeah,
trainings,
we
things
expect
like that. So we're not always
Yeah,
going to
you
be
can't be
able to.
everywhere all the time, that's fine. That
Okay.
doesn't bother me.
We do make it to a lot, though.
Yeah.
We do respond in township and also to others. If our crews are going to be tied up for a long time at other township or other department fires, Delaware City, Liberty Township, like.
If it gets to a point though where we are in a state of emergency, I think strong leadership is always important.
And you're
And I would
absolutely
encourage
correct.
you to
And when
get
we
back
can
as soon
get
as
back, we
possible.
will,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that even just with everything going on, I know a lot of cell phones and text messages were really backed up, and circuits were
Very much
busy,
so.
and it was just really chaos. I mean, I'm sure if you had had notification immediately and, you know, you would have known.
And we were also following our, just so you know, too, the retirement functions, we, not that we were intoxicated, but we had a few drinks, and we do follow our substance-free workplace
Good
policy,
point,
so,
that's a really good point.
absolutely.
No,
Smart.
but again, to the point, I mean, the resident was very pleased with the service, and so I, want to make sure you thank the man.
Yeah, there was
They did a
no
good job.
failure of service
So-
or
No,
problems.
and
They did a good
there will
job.
not be. Just because Chief and I are not present, do not think that there will be a
Right.
failure of service. Our crews are still fully capable and
I
fully.
did, I stopped and saw the firefighters the next morning, check on them, and they were still energetic and professional, and they probably could have gone another shift.
Oh, yeah, I talked to both departments the next morning, and they seemed like nothing had happened early on. They carried on. So we have 3 purchase orders.
Then and now.
Yeah. Would you like to explain this?
Sure. These were repairs made to apparatus between the time that we used up our blanket and the issuance of the new blanket at the last trustee meeting. We had apparatus go down and we had to get them repaired, so these have been announced to account for that.
Do you guys have any questions, trustees?
I do not.
I make a motion to authorize the issuance of a then and now purchase order to Fire Apparatus Service and Repair, Inc. in the amount of $1,605.88 to replace compressor on Rescue Medic.
Second?
Ms. Snell?
Yes?
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
I make a motion to authorize the issuance of a then and now purchase order to Fire Apparatus Service and Repair, Inc. in the amount of $1,487.30 to replace condenser on Rescue Medic.
Second?
Ms. Snell?
Yes?
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
I make a motion to authorize the issuance of a then and now purchase order to Fire Apparatus Service and Repair, Inc. in the amount of $2,223.97 to replace compressor on Medic 361.
Second?
Ms. Snell?
Yes?
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes. Anything
No, oh, nothing else.
else? Okay, thank you.
If I can, I'd like to just give a brief storm update besides the structure fire that we had, if you would allow me. We did have some other calls for service that night, just not the structure fire. We had one automatic aid response with Quigley Township on a reported lightning strike structure fire. We had 3 fire alarm activations, which did not amount to any type of fire or anything like that. They were alarm malfunctions, and 1 open burn that was recorded. Later in the evening, we did have 1 injury. 1 firefighter was taken to the hospital. He was kept overnight for observation. Believed it to be due to dehydration and exertion from the fire earlier that evening. So he was returned to full duty today without restrictions. So he is doing just fine. As far as power outages, I would encourage everybody to go to their appropriate website for their power company, whether that be AEP or whatever other power company that they may have, to check on the update on the power outages. There are still a number of power outages within the township. I know the news is reporting anywhere from 5 to 7 days to restore that power, and that's statewide. Let's face it, statewide, they had about 500,000 individuals that were without power, and they're working very hard to try to get that. In fact, crews were organizing within the township when we left to come here this evening to get back out and to get back to work. And I do want to say with that, with those power outages, with the extreme heat that's forecasted even over the coming days, if any resident is in need of help with either the need of fans that are being donated, they can contact People in Need, or they can contact the Delaware County EMA. And I can provide those numbers if you like for public. People in Need is 740-363-6284. Again, 740-363-6284. Delaware County EMA's number is 740-833-2180. As far as our own damage assessment, I came up Saturday morning to do some assessment on both stations. Station 361, a parking lot light had fell at the rear of the station. The wind had blown that light over. Unfortunately, it did land on one of our firefighters' cars. Did some damage. SO report was taken, pictures were taken. We'll be following up with our insurance company with all of that information. Water did enter the building above the lieutenant's office. That was the only office affected due to the high winds. That water got pushed up into the lieutenant's office. Scott Overturf came in and assessed. He's going to have potentially somebody come in to do some additional repairs on the roof. We're going to try a few different things to try to prevent that from happening in the future. With that water coming in, some ceiling tiles were damaged. A computer monitor was damaged and is non-functional. And the lieutenant that was on duty that night, he had his phone and iPod sitting on the desk. Both of those became wet. The phone's fine, the iPod is not. Hot water heater malfunctioned due to actually what we believe is the wind came in the exhaust pipe and did some damage to the blower motor. Dick Ray came in to take a look at it. Unfortunately, it was beyond his capability, so we had Radico come in and they took care of that Saturday morning. And then just a couple of shingles were blown off the front of the station there, and that's being assessed to be repaired. And then the only other damage was Station 362. The top of the tree at the northwest corner of the station came down on top of the roof. No damage was done to the building other than it's dented an eave. The crew Saturday morning got up there, got that tree off, got it cut up, piled up on the ground. So that's, unless you have any questions for me, that's kind of a quick status update from Friday's storm.
Yeah, we're lucky nobody got hurt with everything coming down.
Yep, with everything, you're absolutely correct. So.
Did we lose power at either of the fire stations at all?
It was intermittent, not long enough for the generator to run for any length of time. My understanding is it was kind of a hit and miss on and off.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did either of the other two trustees lose power during the storm?
Not in my home.
I did for about 24 hours.
Really? Okay. I actually lost power at 5 p.m. that night and it just came back on a couple hours ago. So it's been kind of a crazy weekend. So I live in the Green Meadows area where we have about 600 houses. And I did find that our township website wasn't offering any kind of updates or information or anything on our listserv to help our residents. And I was wondering if maybe we could prepare for some kind of something where we could update our website in times of emergencies with maybe emergency contact numbers or like the County EMA website, and also possibly open up, I think we've done this in the past, this room if we need to help cool people down and also to provide electricity. We did that a few years back, and I think after so many days of 95, 98 degree weather, people can really start suffering. So I noticed that I think we were on the generator here for the first day, but after that, I believe the electricity came back, and we do have a pretty big building. We used to have people come in and charge their cell phones or things like that. So I'd like to maybe be working on some kind of plan that we could help our residents as much as we could, at least get them help where they need it, because there was a lot of mass confusion, and we were all relying on texting and emailing and Facebook, and it'd be nice to have a central area or a contact person that, you know, at 11 o'clock p.m., maybe even if it's one of us, I would take that on, be able to update the website with emergency information, or maybe all three of us. Some kind of plan like that we could work on.
We should come up with a plan.
I'll work on that and keep everybody posted. And that's all I had.
Thank you. At this moment, I had a request to take a 5-minute recess. Okay. 5-minute recess. Marianne, are you ready? Turn to regular session. We're moving on to old business. Item A, enter into an amended agreement for the countywide emergency management agency. I believe everybody received a copy of the amended agreement.
Correct.
Are there any questions? I'd like to make a motion
Rob,
to,
did you want to explain what this was?
this is an agreement with the county from the Department of Homeland Security for emergency management. It's basically, we all have to contribute to their services in time of emergency management.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Make a motion for the following resolution. Be resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, enter an executive and execute the amended agreement with the countywide emergency management agency as received from Delaware County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, DCOH-SEM. The agreement shall be in the form of Exhibit A of this resolution, the contents of which are incorporated by reference herein and fully repeated. Be it further resolved that Mr. Quigley shall execute the agreement on behalf of the Board. Be it further resolved that the Township Administrator shall submit a copy of this resolution and the executed amended agreement for a countywide emergency management agency to the DCOH-SEM as soon as possible.
Second?
Need a clean copy of it as soon as possible.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Everyone get that done? Moving on to item 7, now B, the official acknowledgement of the county prosecutor's opinion. We received an opinion from the county prosecutor regarding a records request, and as advised, we need to acknowledge and accept the opinion of the county prosecutor.
Who was advised that we accept and acknowledge that?
County prosecutor. Are there any questions?
That one hasn't changed either, has it?
That one hasn't changed? No. Okay, so I'll make sure.
Now, is there guidance that's in writing somewhere?
At this point, it's a matter of just acknowledging the fact that they provide an opinion and that we're accepting it, their opinion, which is,
All right, well, you said that we've received guidance. I was wondering if that was in writing somewhere.
no, their guidance was that, no, they didn't receive, no, they
just
explained to
Met.
the fiscal office that that would be the next step from a prosecutor's office recommendation.
So he met with the prosecutor?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
I'd like to move for the motion, the adoption of the following resolution, whereas the township has received a public records request regarding video recordings made by a township trustee of meetings of the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, and whereas the township fiscal officer, in pursuing satisfaction of such request, asked the township trustee making the recordings to deliver to him the video recordings or copies thereof, which appeal was refused. And whereas the township fiscal officer thereafter requested the guidance of the Office of Delaware County Prosecuting Attorney relative to the public records request and received its legal opinion dated May 24, 2012, stating that the video recordings of the meetings of the board made by the township trustee are public records that should be provided to the individual who has requested a copy. And whereas the township fiscal officer has shared this legal opinion with the board, with the result that the township trustee making recordings has continued to refuse to deliver video recordings or copies thereof to the township fiscal officer. And whereas Orange Township faces consequences including but not limited to diversion of resources and distraction from necessary public business, legal expenses, potential court costs, and statutory attorney fees if litigation ensues to mandate the production of the video recordings. Now therefore be resolved that the board acknowledges receipt of the legal opinion of the prosecuting attorney dated May 24, 2012, that the video recordings of the meeting of the board made by the township trustee are public records that should be provided to the individual who has requested a copy. Be it further resolved that the board accepts this opinion of its statutory counsel, the prosecuting attorney. Be it further resolved that the board directs Township Trustee Lisa Knapp to deliver the requested video recordings or copies thereof to the Township Fiscal Officer so that the copies of the same can be provided to the requesting person. Be it further resolved that the resolution shall be effective and enforced from and after its passage.
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Abstain. I do have a couple of comments I'd like to make about that, please. I have emailed Mr. Wilson and asked him if he'd be willing to meet with this new program that the Attorney General has, where we can actually go to their office for free and confidential mediation. And so far, I've heard nothing back from them. That would be a way to avoid much of these legal fees and this whole situation that's come up if he would just agree to go through that process with me. But I've not heard back from him, unfortunately. And of course, like I said, I've offered to meet with him or speak with him on the phone, and he's declined those offers as well. Has there been any indication that Mr. Wilson is intending to file writ of mandamus in court?
We are not aware. The matter here is just making sure that we protect the township. An acknowledgement to your email, I'm not sure what, any response or not, but, you know, I do know that the law also protects people that want to have anonymity, which I know you're aware about. So I don't know if that's the viable option for that person or not.
Okay,
But right now, the idea here is to protect the township by accepting the prosecutor's opinion to ensure that if there is any action, that we did our due diligence to try to, as a township, and also as our duty to the residents, that we've done our job.
Right, I'd like to point out again that all those videos are available for viewing on YouTube by anyone who wishes to see them in the meantime.
Any other questions?
No.
We'll go ahead and move on to new business. A resolution to support Delaware County's application to participate in the Moving Ohio Forward Grant Program of the Ohio Attorney General's Office. This was sent out. It's a new program that would help the county with, will provide funds to help with dilapidated houses and structures to help clean them up. Are there any questions?
No, I thought it was great.
Are they they're gonna help in, this is just a resolution support of it?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I can move for the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas the Ohio Attorney General's Office has successfully settled with the nation's largest mortgage servicers over foreclosure, abuses, fraud, and unacceptable mortgage practices, and has made $75 million in funding available for residential demolition through the Moving Ohio Forward Demolition Grant Program. And whereas Delaware County has identified a strategic need within its community for program assistance and desires to participate in and receive financial assistance for demolition under the program. And whereas the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township supports the program of the Ohio Attorney General's Office and Delaware County's application for program assistance. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, as follows. Section 1. The Board supports Delaware County's filing of the application for assistance under the program of the Ohio Attorney General's Office. Section 2. The Board appoints Thomas Fairhay, zoning inspector, as its official representative in regard to participation in the program and provision of all information and documentation required by Delaware County for the program. Section 3. The Board understands and agrees that participation in the program requires compliance with program guidelines and assurances. Section 4. The resolution shall be effective and enforced from and after its passage.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
I just had one question about that. So we're appointing Tom Fairhay for that as our representative. So what kind of work would that entail?
Just a matter of providing information on what houses or structures in the area that might be considered condemned or dilapidated, that could be in consideration for some of the funds that were provided by the state to the county.
We are working with Mr. Fairhay with that too.
I think he's looked at 3 different areas. One was the White Barn over in Africa Road, I believe it was. A house on US 23.
Yeah, Africa is a house in the barn.
Right, yeah, that's right. So I know there's a couple that he's already listed, and I told him to go ahead and make sure he mentioned it to the county right up front with our support.
So he and the fire department, if they notice dilapidated buildings, they would report those to the county?
We're reporting it to Mr. Fairhay.
Okay, you report to Mr. Fairhay and he reports to them. Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Moving on to the final item, the approval of the June 18, 2012 minutes. Actually, I just remembered one thing I was supposed to note at the beginning there, is that we are, and as also supported by the county prosecutor, the recordings are considered a permanent record from here on out, the audio recordings. We will modify our record retention for that.
Oh, they wouldn't be considered a permanent record until we adopt that in the records policy, right? That's
Well,
the
right
key.
now, I'm going ahead and stating that these recordings from here on out will be kept as a permanent record on record at this meeting, and then we will modify our record retention to show that.
So you're making that decision right now, or should we have? That's not really applicable until we modify our our records retention policy.
No, the records retention policy allows for us to keep the recordings if we're directed.
Indefinitely, right, right, so it doesn't need to be stated.
Well, I
That's
just
the
want to state
default.
that we are keeping them
That's the default.
permanently. Are there any questions regarding the regular trustee meeting on June 18, 2012?
Nope.
Therefore, I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 18, 2012 minutes as presented.
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Mrs. Toronto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
No.
Any other business? Seeing none? Meeting adjourned.